Okay, so you're very welcome, Dawn,
Yep.
Dawn Sherine, is it?
Yep. Dawn Sherine. It's
Dawn,
Irish, actually.
is it Irish? Is it?
Yeah. I'm from the Isle of McGee. My last name is McGee, so my family's heritage comes from the Isle of McGee. And Shireen was apparently a queen or something
Oh,
during one of the realms back in the 700s or something like that. So
yeah. My lack of history skills now is that they're showing up. I'm after getting caught off guard with that one now.
yeah,
Dawn,
no, Dawn Sherine.
McGee now is a very Irish name, all right.
Yeah, very Irish. I'm Irish, English, and American Indian, so it's like go figure that one out.
Oh, yeah. So Don, you run your own host. This is kind of like a two podcast crossover in a way because you have your own podcast, Dancing with
Yeah.
Bipolar. When did you
Yep.
start that? It's going a while, I think, is it?
It started in April.
Okay, not that long actually. No.
Not that long for as kind of big as it's getting. I'm not saying it's really getting like huge, but it's starting to blow up a little bit, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's. I actually started mine in May, and it's funny, when you see the statistics of people listening, demographics, when you just hit publish, it's a nice feeling. Obviously, people are taking something out of it. But it is surprising sometimes, isn't it, when you see the view count or listener count? It's nice.
Yeah. I've had a huge jump over the past 2 days, and I just found out that I was podcast of the day for not Radio Public, for Player FM.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's quite a big one.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, because on my numbers, I was like, there's something going on. And then it came through on my news feed and it was like, podcast of the day. And I always look at it and I was like, it's never going to be me. And I looked at it this morning and I was like, oh my God.
Well, fair play to you. You've quite a few episodes out at this stage, don't you?
Yeah, I just put up 23 last night. So,
Well, yeah. See, I've been kind of a bit slow off the mark. This is number 11, and I really had to have a think. I was away last week, and I said, right, I may get the ball rolling because you lose steam otherwise, don't you?
it seems like it. I was actually doing it twice a week and that seemed like a little bit of overkill. And then I had some times where I just like let it go and it would be like just about on 2 weeks. And that seemed a little bit too long. So I like the 1 week thing, maybe like the every 8 days or every 6 days, something like that. Not necessarily a week, but yeah, it seems to go a lot better for me. And my friends are like, you can always do little like touch ups here for 5 minutes to like, fill people in. And I'm like, yeah, I just need to start taking notes so I can remember what I want to talk about because I don't want to do that. Then it just seems like I'm padding it to have extra episodes and I don't want to do that either. So
Yeah, there's a balance of kind of
it's a
quantity.
very it's a very fine balance, I think. I'm still feeling it out, just like the whole interview thing. When I started it, I wanted it to be basically interview based. And then my interviews started like just bagging on me. And like, you would wait for them and it was just it's stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're going to obligate to do something, then just do it. If you're scared, you're scared. But I was like, I'm not going to bite you or anything like that. Just,
No,
it's
it's
just
true.
so and now this year, because I'm going to have a new season. I'm not going to have seasons anymore, but it would be a new season because I've got like 6 interviews lined up up through November and more to come. So it's kind of like it's going to take a different flow, but I'll still be jabbering.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? It does take a lot, doesn't it? Like a lot goes on behind the scenes, like a lot of even the editing side of things. I did one. This is my second Skype interview. Well, not interview. I always say to them like it's a discussion, and go back and forth. It's free flowing kind of conversation. But I had some trouble editing the one last night. I put it up and I was like up at 1 a.m. and I was editing it and I got it all published. And then someone texted me and said halfway through the audio drops, and I spent hours all day long trying to edit it and find out why. So there is an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes, isn't there? Trying to make time and schedule it.
Well, there's that as far as the actual podcasting goes, but then there's the whole thing of claiming your podcast on all the different platforms that there are now and getting like a pod site up, your own like web page and stuff like that. And if I would have known how much work there was to do with it, I probably would have just been like, nobody needs to know what's going on with me. Nobody needs to know this. But I kind of went in like very like naive. I was going to say stupid, but just naive. And now it's like, I could write a book. Literally, I could write a book on how to start a podcast and like everything that you should not do and and what you should do and what you should be aware of and like copyright laws and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, there's an awful lot that goes into it, and I had to pick up things, and obviously, still, but it is a relatively new kind of forum, so you kind of have to just go in blind a bit, but it's good though. It's nice to see people watching. I might shoot mine up on YouTube and on the podcast front, but it's more so on the podcast listening that the count is, because I don't think people like I said, a lot of my interviews can sometimes roll on for an hour and a half or something. And I don't think people want to sit down and watch that. Rather, podcast is something you do when you're driving in the car. You can hear it through your radio or going for a run or something like that.
It's an appetizer. That's kind of like how I looked at it. It's like an appetizer. I mean, some of them go 4 hours. Like Joe Rogan. I mean, he can pull it off. Okay. I mean, I'll give the guy credit. But 4 hours. That's that's a date. I mean,
Yeah, it seriously is. Yeah. Well, look, today I just kind of wanted to talk about, and it sounds, when I have it written down in front of me, it sounds very like a low thing to talk about, kind of, but it's your experience with kind of depression and suicide, mental health issues, and things you've come across over your experience. Because I did listen to your podcast, Make It Right. I did enjoy it, and but I did want to ask you some questions on kind of you. It sounds like you kind of had, you got to a depressive state, and you had almost like a near-death experience, it sounds like, and then, Make It Right was like almost a second chance where you put all your focus on aiding the mental illness. Am I saying that right? Would that be a good depiction of the way
it's pretty close. I've had depression pretty much my whole life. In fact, I was like reflecting on it last night when I did my podcast, and it was like the first time I tried to kill myself, I was 6. 6 years old, and I can remember distinctly laying in the middle of the road and just praying that a bus would come by or that a car would hit me. So depression's been a staple of my life for as long as I can possibly remember. Now, the suicide, I did die. It's not clinical death because I died in my friend's bed, but I actually did die. I took 164 trazodone with vodka and an empty stomach on a dare. Basically, I was with a really bad boyfriend who was upset with me because I didn't get my Social Security disability that day when I was supposed to, because there was a mess up with the lawyer. And he blamed me for it, which it was like, I was just as upset about not getting it. But it was like, he was like, it was his money. And it was like, no, you're just this guy I hooked up with. It has nothing to do with you. And he's like, I bet you couldn't even kill yourself right. Well, he caught me in a mood where I was like, really? I bet you I can. And I was living in a house where there was a whole bunch of junkies and everybody was on pharmaceuticals, and there was all kinds of pills to choose from. And it was his prescription of trazodone, which he was obviously not taking because there was 3 months worth of it for me to foolishly gobble. And I did. And though it wasn't a clinical death because none of them would call an ambulance for me because they were afraid they were going to get charged on a homicide because they knew I was dying. But I did. I mean, I died. I evacuated. And then I went into, I didn't have the tunnel experience. I just kind of wound up in this really light, beautiful, warm music place of like peace. It was, I guess it could be as like in the womb kind of, although I don't remember being in the womb, but like as being in the womb. And it was beautiful, and I was safe, and I wanted to stay. I really did. And then the voices started coming to me. Like, it was more than one voice, because I want to say it was God's voice, but it was more like an angelic choir of voices that came to me. And they're like, you're not done yet. You can stay here if you want to, or you can go back and you can make it right. And as soon as they said make it right, I could feel my body being pulled back and out, and it was cold and it was dark and there was pain. When I came back into my body, there was so much pain from the overdose, and then from the re-entry, I'm going to say, because I'm not sure the process of like molecularly what happens when that happens to you. If you actually do start like disintegrating in your own body, and when you're going through. But I came back through, and the first thing when I opened my eyes was my dog, who is like right here next to me now, like just laying there, like looking at me, tears. His fur was pelted from crying for as many hours or days, because I lost a day on this. So I obviously didn't die immediately, but I want to say I was like in a coma-like state if it wasn't an actual death.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go with that.
How long ago did it actually happen?
That was about 14 years ago. I was 40, just about 14 years ago. Okay. But it's still, when I remember it like it was yesterday, and I can remember coming back. And even though I was in pain and, I went to the hospital for a really long time, I gave myself pancreatitis, and I was starting to shut down vital organs and all kinds of good stuff. But I can remember the whole make it right, make it right, make it right. And I was just like, what does that mean? What am I supposed to make right? Am I supposed to make my life right? Am I supposed to make the world? What am I supposed to do? And I searched for that for a really long time. But on the coming back after my rebirth, I looked at life in such a different way. It was so much more important, and everything was so much greater than me, and when I was hyper focused on me during this time beforehand, I was going to kill myself. I was going to do drugs. I was going to always all about me. And then coming back, I think maybe I got the connection of the oneness of the world, and that it isn't all about me. It's about all of us together. Yeah. And, we're tonal. So it's like all together we can be a beautiful orchestra, or we can be a clash of sounds that is just unbelievably negative. And still to this day, 14 years later, I still am like awestruck by certain things when I'll go outside and I'll see an eagle come overhead, or I'll hear like a bunch of notes together. I'm a musician, so like music is like really key to me. I'll hear like a certain, strain of notes, and it'll just like bring tears to my eyes, because it's like it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. And I can respect that now and realize that I'm not going to get a second chance to live this life and have all this, beauty around me and to make it right, which I think now I've finally fallen into what it is. It took an awfully long time for me to get here to figure it out, but I think I do. I think I got it. And it's to make other people aware of how beautiful life is. Yeah, it sucks. We have times when it's like, it's horrible, but it's not worth dying over.
Yeah.
We're all going to die anyway. It's an inevitability. So why rush it? Because it's a given that we're here and we're going to die. So let's just, take the ride and see what happens, and let's not end it early. And
funny. I was talking to a guy yesterday. Fred is his name, and he was involved in a lot of. In his youth, he was a bit misguided, and he was in and out of prisons, and he came to a clash with another gang, and he had a near-death experience as well. But he would say he was on the wrong path, and he had a very different kind of experience you did. He had a cold, empty one with a feeling of, it wasn't cold, it was empty darkness, and he said the feeling of heat escalating. So, but it's funny, because last year, before I even began the idea of a podcast, I even thought about it, I came across a book, and it was about near-death experiences, and it was this guy. I think he studied them for like 15 years, and I can't actually think of the book now. I should have been more prepared to have that written down. But he went to all cultures and talked to surgeons and all different races of people and all, and the correlations were ridiculous. The feeling of peace, or the voice, the choice, like you said, of going back, and that feeling of heaviness and pain when they did return. And I've actually wrote down a bit. There's a lot of statistics I was reading yesterday on recurring experiences from people who've been clinically dead for some time. And the Missouri Medical Association report that 20% of people who come to critical condition report a near-death experience. It's very high, it's like 1 in 5.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a quote from the journal from MD Jeffrey Long reads, there are characteristic features that are commonly observant in near-death experiences. These include passing through a tunnel, encountering mysterious light, intense and general positive emotions, life review, encountering deceased loved ones, and a choice to return to earthly life. And like surgeons have apparently made such noise about it that it's been a scholarly investigation for almost 40 years, and it's actually converting atheist surgeons from just seeing these things, you know. So from that, would you say then, would you believe in a higher power, or did you come from not believing to now believing, or what's your stand on that?
I had faith before. Well, I believed in God. You know, I had lost faith in God after my dad died when I was 15. I didn't not believe in him, but I didn't feel he believed in me. But yeah, since coming back, I'm still not sure it's a singular entity or if it's more of a pluralistic. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, there's definitely something bigger than us. There's something that guides us or at least gives us signs as to where they want us to go. If it is a God, then of course our free will comes into play where, we get the choice to go one way or the other. But yeah, no, I definitely believe that there's a higher power than us. Nature, infinity, I'm not sure what it is. I mean, I call it God because that's my upbringing. And yeah, that whole death thing. I mean, there was some intimacy in it too, which is kind of hard to explain, but it was, wow, it's really hard to explain. But it was like being like back in like your safe home area. Like, I'm not gonna say like a spaceship type thing because that sounds crazy, like bring me home, but something similar to that, like I was home, like I was in a very familiar place where I knew I was safe and I knew I was loved and I knew that the mental pain would stop and that all the agony that I've been going through since a child was no longer going to happen. So I don't know if that's God, but it was definitely something that I was familiar with. Like when you're born, you come from something. Like I had gone back to that for my time. I wasn't supposed to be there yet, but they accepted me and were willing to let me stay.
Mm-hmm.
But the choice was given to me that, stay or go back and make it right. Now, the funny thing is I sometimes wonder, like, if I hadn't come back and decided to try to figure out what make it right means, what my life would be like now.
Yeah.
Had I not followed the direction, or it wasn't an order, it was definitely a direction that I was supposed to follow when I came back.
Yeah.
What would I be doing now if I had decided to come back and just like basically crap all over my second chance and go back to being the drug addicted, loser that I was prior to this, so yeah, there's definitely a thing about the higher power.
You probably wouldn't have got a third chance,
Yeah, because since then I have tried, well, not necessarily tried to kill myself again, but I've had some really dark moments where I've wound up in a psych ward with, suicidality all playing around it. And those times are so dark, and it's like, they're not shutting me down, whatever that is that let me come back, but they're definitely displeased with what I'm up to. And I honestly don't think that I can kill myself again, to tell you the truth. I think that because I've gotten this second chance, that even if I wanted to try to do something stupid, like the rope would break, the truck would miss me, I would get a wind shear and I would, fly up above it or something like that. So I don't know, but there's definitely something way greater than we are.
Recently there's a lot of mixed opinions on antidepressant tablets, then their side effects and things like that. But what's your take on that? For someone to take them, would you recommend them?
Well, I hate my meds. I have to take them. Without them, I get delusional when I'm not on them. It kind of goes a little further, which some people say is because I came back from the near death or my death, and that because now I've been into a different realm and on a different plane, that I can see things differently. So like this, we're in a 4-dimensional or 3-dimensional world right now. I can see the 5th dimension of it. So I personally feel if you can avoid going on pharmaceuticals by any way, shape, or form, don't go on them, because once you're on them, it's kind of a catch-22. They make you better, but they make you worse. You have to be on them forever, and then there's side effects. And then when they stop working, you're back at square one again, where you were before if you hadn't started taking the pharmaceuticals. So they're dangerous for your liver. They're dangerous for your kidneys. They can cause cancer. You know, I've been fighting with my doctor actually to get off what I'm on right now. Now, seeing that I was last hospitalized in March, he's not willing to take me off anything yet because it's still too close to call or whatever he says.
Yeah.
But I was in remission from this for like 7 years. And then all of a sudden my bipolar just came back and like hit me like a brick. For 7 years, I was just, you know, healthy eating, exercise, and, you know, right living. And I was fine. And then I don't know what happened, if it was because of you know, metabolism thing, or I don't know what happened, but man, it hit me hard when it came back. And it was just like, you got to be kidding me. I thought I had it beat, you know? And they put me on meds like 5 years ago, and I stayed on them for a while. And then I was like, no, I'm better. I can, you know, I don't need this. And I was okay for a long time, or I thought I was okay for a long time. I probably wasn't okay for a long time. And then this last year, when I fell into a deep depression, and I actually tried to overdose on trazodone again in December, and it obviously wasn't going to work. So I called up my friend, and I was like, dude, I'm dying. I'm overdosing right now. And he came and he picked me up and brought me to the hospital, yelled at me all the way there, you know, it's like, you make some of the worst choices, right? And he's like, so what are you overdosing on? I'm like, my trazodone. And he's like, you know, he's like, what, the third time's a shot on this Dawn? I'm like, no, I called for help. I don't want to die. I just don't want to live like this anymore, you know, because I was just miserable.
Well, it sounds like it's a vicious cycle. I know as well, you know, with the controversy about the meds, and I have seen different opinions on, you know, some say as well that it should be an option because, you know, they might have side effects, but at least they're not fatal, you know, if people are right on the cusp of that. But obviously it's a vicious cycle, like you said. They can damage the body.
Side effects can definitely be fatal. If you stop taking your meds, you can die. There's no two ways about that. You can become suicidal, or like your body functions can start to shut down because you become you need them. You become dependent on them. Your body becomes dependent on them. I notice now, if I miss a day, that like there's certain things that I feel about my body that I'm like, oh, I forgot to take my meds today, because I'll start getting a blazing headache, or you know, one of them I have is it makes you so that you dry up. It used to be an allergy medicine, and I'll notice that immediately when I don't take that one, because all of a sudden I'm like, my nose is running and I'm just like all kind of gooky, you know, and it's like, oh, forgot to take my meds today. Yeah. But yeah, some of them, you stop taking them, you can't go cold turkey off your meds. I highly advise you don't go cold turkey off your meds, because you can die. You can have a heart attack. I mean, you could kill you. Those are the times when, even if you're not suicidal, that you would kill yourself, because you're also crazy from not having that med that's keeping you quote unquote normal. That so
it's crazy, you know, at this day and age, with all the, you know, they're curing diseases every day, they can't just get, you know, non-side effect kind of antidepressant, really, you know, isn't it? It's crazy that they affect your liver and can give you cancer, and it's
your heart. I mean, because they affect every muscle in your body is what they do. And so yeah, your body, it's not like heroin, but it's like heroin, you know what I mean? It's like your body becomes dependent on it. And there's times when I don't take my meds that I go into arrhythmia, my heart arrhythmia. It's crazy. And it's like, just because I forgot to take it, and it's terrifying to me that my body has grown so dependent on these medications. And then I'm like, what happens when, you know, when and if the Third World War happens and all of a sudden I can't get my meds anymore? What then? When am I going to detox and die off of them before I can like get my body right again without them? I mean,
that's true.
It's scary.
It is. Just one thing you said there is, well, you said that you play music. You play a certain instrument, do you?
I play 28 instruments. I started on tuba though. Yeah. When I do something, I do it 100%. So it's like, I'm going to be a musician. I play 28 instruments. Started on tuba when I was in 4th grade, so I was about 9.
28. I didn't think that was possible even, you know. It's hard enough. Like I play a bit of, well, I play guitar with my brothers, and we've been playing for years and all. But I was going to lead into, do you find music helps? I find music, as you know, helps lift my mood hugely. I often talk about, like, the podcast Train, Thought and Truth, and we go through how music, I think, falls into the kind of spiritual side of things, because you know it alters your mood, and it kind of feels like it elevates you in some ways, and it speaks to a different part. You know, people listen to music and you know they get emotional about it, and even I was looking up facts on running. You know, they brought out the Spotify where you know you run to the beat of the music, it matches your heart. But if you listen to music long enough, it will actually synchronize with your respiratory and your system and all this. You know, and do you find music helps when you're ever in that kind of state of mind?
Yeah, I love music. You know, because as human beings, we're vibrational, so our vibration can match the tones in the music.
Yeah.
And I, if it's rare that I don't have my headphones in, like I actually don't have them around my neck right now because I knew I was doing this. But I mean, they're constantly on me. I listen to music probably 17 hours a day, literally, while I'm awake. I don't have TV. I have a PlayStation, but I don't play games so much anymore. Yeah, I think music is very, very spiritual, and it's a way for us to, you know, recommune with nature. And sometimes, I mean, I won't have my headphones on, and I'll just go take a walk and listen to the birds and the wind and the water and how it is its own music, you know, and how my dog is snoring right now, and it's like, you know, he's making his own music on top of it. But yeah,
no,
music.
I get what you mean there, because I feel the same way. You know, I similar to you, have the headphones around, and actually think I've seen a photo with you with your headphones. I think they're the same ones, you know, and they're the ones with the magnetic thing there. They go around like a necklace.
Yep.
But sometimes when I go out, like today, I was at my son's basketball practice, and they were going to watch a match. So I said, "Look, I'm going to walk back to the house," and I looked everywhere for my earphones, you know, and I'm like, you know, I really wanted to, you know, sometimes you don't want to miss that opportunity, but then as well, when you hit stop, sometimes you do take your earphones out and you hear it sounds a bit cheesy, but the birds and you know and things like that, it's great to hear, because you don't hear that enough. We go from home into the car, into work, back in the car, home, and then if you go for a run, you listen to music, and sometimes you just need to go outside and open your eyes and ears sometimes, don't you, just to reconnect?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the spiritual music. I mean, that might be similar to what I heard when I was in my, I don't even know, I want to say my death, but like my state of mind at that time. But yeah, nature is its own. I mean, it can be beautiful, like, you know, the croaking of the frogs and the ducks. And because I walk my dog like every day, we do a 5-mile, well, he's getting older now, so we kind of down to 3 miles, but we walk to this place called Rainbow Lake pretty much every day. And he has his own duck friends, and we've actually adopted our own duck that looks like him. It's a black and white speckled duck, and we call him Barnaby. And he jumps for bread. Like, he literally lifts up out of the water and jumps for bread. So he's a very special duck. We say he's from France because he looks like none of the other ducks in the pond whatsoever. But yeah, I do that a lot because I can totally isolate myself with music on top of it. So I have to be mindful of it, that sometimes I need to like reconnect with the world, and nature is a better way to do it, because I really could do without hearing all the jibber jabber of people a lot of times. And I don't mean that in a rude way, but I don't need gossip. I don't need the drama. And that seems to be what 99% of the people around where I'm at want to talk about. And I have no interest in that whatsoever. It's, you know, if you want to like talk,
clutters your head a lot, doesn't it? You need that you need to clear out the head, and that's what it does, really. You know, like I sometimes cycle an awful lot, and sometimes I just, you know, get off the bike and just take in what's around, because I don't think we do that enough and appreciate it enough, really. You know what's going on, or you know, the sun might be setting, and I'm like, right, I might get back soon, but you know, that's just a given. The sun sets every day, but when you actually stop and look at it and what's actually happening, you know, it's pretty amazing. But what we're thinking about is getting home, getting the dinner on, work tomorrow, make sure you know, and it's all these things that, you know, we've cluttered our things together. It's more important to make sure we don't miss a certain show on TV at that particular time, and you know, you don't even look.
I don't live like that. Yeah, I would say I'm on disability, so I don't have to worry about the whole job thing. I'm on disability for the bipolar, but it's kind of funny. Like we've been given this beautiful earth that which we're destroying, in my opinion, and people are more focused on dancing with the stars than actually
Yeah.
dancing with the stars. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, we go outside. Do that, you know. I mean, it's funny because I'm the one who like sets my clock for like we have like a blue moon eclipse or something like that, and I'll be the one. I'll set my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning to actually go outside and freeze my butt off and see it. You know, I'll be the one to get up for the Leonids, you know, and watch the asteroids. And but yeah, people take it for granted because it's like they know it's going to happen every day, and they're like, someday I'll be able to, you know, retire, and then I'll be able to do this, and then I'll be able to do that. And it's like, but you don't know that you have that option. You don't know that that chance is there. And how many beautiful sunsets have you missed? It's just like in The Little Prince, where the guy is the lamplighter and all he ever wants to do is sleep. And then there's the king who counts. All he does is count the sunrises and sunsets, but he never looks at them because he's too busy counting them. It's like, isn't that's the saddest thing ever?
But it's true as well, yeah. And I'm the same. You know, when I see a full moon and it's down low and it's huge, you know, when I stand at the window, it's like, taking a look at this, and most people are like, oh no, you know, whatever. But if I was to say to people, you know, what are you doing last night? I went down and like, it's looking at, you know, this Orion's belt, and you know, like what, you know, but like, what were you doing watching TV? Is that not a bit more shocking? Like, with everything else that's going on around you, you know, we forget where we are. You know, all we see is four walls, the 3D space, and it's unfortunate because it's either, you know, the four ends of your car or the four ends of your sitting room or your kitchen, and the blinds down. You don't want to associate with your next door neighbors, and you know these kinds. I'm not saying me specifically. I mean, like, just you watch the vibe you get, you know. But so I made an effort this week, and I came home from work and I was wrecked, but I got changed and I said I'm going to drop by someone and you just get out more and chat to people more, because then weekdays for me, working Monday to Friday, it's like you're living for the weekend and everyone's always talking about that, and then it's kind of like, you know, you're wishing your days away and wishing your time away. You're burning your daylight, and you know, really should be focusing on enjoying the day and get that whole Monday mentality out of your head, you know, and so that you're not just happy for 2 days of a week, you know.
But are people even happy those 2 days of the week? Because then they're just trying to jam pack everything into those 2 days, and they make so much importance on just that again, they're still missing the bigger picture of just like letting it ride, you know. I mean, I get the planning and stuff like that, and you want to take your family to someplace nice, but don't plan out every second of it. Like, let stuff just happen.
Yeah,
you know, like I know people that go to the Grand Canyon and they have it like mile marked by like every 15-minute increment of where they're going to be on the, and it's like, but you don't know if you're going to see a condor, and you're going to want to like sit there and look at it in awe for a half hour, or if you're going to, you know, you don't know what you're going to see. So how can you plan that? How can you pre-plan the?
There's something I found interesting actually. I see, you know, when you're talking about your dog there, and I think your cats as well. Don't you have cats as well?
I have cats.
There's something I read last year, and I really looked it up because you know, they say how much these animals help people's, you know, you could say soul, or you could say mental state, or you could say depressive state, or whatever. But there's studies done on how much they actually affect people, you know, clinical studies. And it says, you know, a study from the National Alliance shows that dogs in particular can lower their owner's blood pressure, their risk of heart disease. They elevate oxytocin and dopamine levels, creating positive feelings. You know, like, how important are your pets to you?
They're my family. They're my family. You know, I got Doc when I got sober from alcohol, and my AA sponsor told me that I had to get a dog because a plant wouldn't keep me sober. And I was like, the big book says right here, plant first. And she's like, there's no way a plant is going to keep you sober. She says you have to get a dog. Yeah. So we went and we emancipated my dog from a gang yard in Waterbury, Connecticut. And I named him Doc, which is short for Department of Corrections, which is where I knew I was going to wind up if I didn't get sober. And I've had him ever since, and I've been sober ever since I got him, and he just turned 13. But yeah, my animals, and it is true about the heart rate, because I had a cat before mine and Doc's cat, and I used to call her my blood pressure pill, because when I would start kooking out and start freaking, she would immediately come up and lay on my chest. And like within 5 minutes, like my heart rate would be matching her heart rate. And
Really?
it's true, you know, and it's like with Doc, like it's really rare that we're not like hanging out together. And I'm not sure who benefits who the most. I mean, I feed him, but he's kept me sober. I mean, I'm gonna give him credit for that, because my AA sponsor was dead straight. Without something that was bigger than me, that I had to take responsibility for, and that I learned unconditional love from Doc. I really did. So,
Yeah. Even on the other side of things, even without the actual physical health side of things, you know, they recommend them for elderly people as well, because if they get a dog and they go walking them, and you know, they meet other dog owners, and it takes away the loneliness. Just in them being there takes away the loneliness. But the dogs, though, you know, there's something very special about dogs. I'm not knocking cats or any other pets either, but just I think, in my own opinion, you know, we've always had dogs growing up, and I had one particular dog called Max, and he passed like 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago. Next month will be, but still talking about him, I get quivering in the voice. You know what I mean? Because he was just one of those family members who was 16, big golden Labrador. And it was the hardest thing ever to we had to say goodbye to him on the table in the vets, and you know, I closed his eyes. But what he did for the family, you know, we've had loads of dogs, but there's him in particular, you know. But you get so close to them, and they are family members, you know. You mourn for them, and you remember them, like, so, because of that unconditional love as well. You know, they're always happy to see you, no matter how. You know, we have shitty days, and we come home and we can take it out on people. A dog, if it has a shitty day where it's been kicked by a passerby or fucking nearly hit by a car or whatever, they won't take it out on you. You know what I mean? They'll be happy to see you anyway. You know.
No matter what, I mean, even when I've come home from hospitalizations, and when I died back east, I was gone for a couple months from him, and I mean, I've never felt more selfish in my life. Let me just add that too. After that. It was the most selfish thing I've ever done, was to try to take my own life. I'm not gonna. There's no two ways about that. But he forgave me, and I'm still working on forgiving myself for what I did to him, because he didn't deserve it. He has a severe anxiety separation thing now because of that, which is understandable. You know, it's totally understandable. But you know, I often say to him, like, you know, he's a person, but it's like, I don't know who I would be without you, Doc, because you've made me a better person. And it's true. You know, he taught me how to be humane, you know?
Yeah, because you hear, like, dogs, you know, they're that connected. You hear about dogs waiting by people's graves, you know, and, you know, you hear dogs
sitting
crying.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've seen dogs, you know, when they let people in coma see their dog for the last time. The dog sniffing them, they know well, you know. You can hear them very upset about it, and you see all the videos of the soldiers coming home and how, you know, the dogs are like kids, you know. But they do have a very special connection. I think if there was ever a purpose for dogs, if, you know, it sounds like I'm simplifying it, because, you know, they have so much, they give so much, and it's not to say that they're just here for us, but they do, you know, massively help people. You know, I think they connect with people, and they, you know, it's a two-way relationship, and they both get stuff from it.
Yeah, because even with when Doc was younger, I used to take him to libraries with kids that had like autism and stuff like that, and who couldn't read very well, or wouldn't read very well to people. Now they could read like a champion when they had a dog by them. Yeah. So dog, I mean, I thought I had read something a couple years back that like there was an extra DNA gene or something that was starting to grow in dogs that made them actually closer to human. Like they were gaining something from all their presence on Earth with animals, that they were gaining a gene, a chromosome, something like that was actually making them more human-like.
Yeah.
So I can get that, though. I mean, Doc can go around ill people and people that are just like really depressed people, and they don't want to deal with people, but they'll allow Doc to come by, and the next thing you know, they'll be like talking to him in his ear and like whispering to him, and, you know, and smiling. And it's like, and it's like Doc is like a guardian angel. I swear he is. Like, he was gifted to me after I died because they knew I was going to need something to keep me on the path of make it
Absolutely.
right.
Like, you could even argue the case. Like, where would you be without Doc?
I would be dead. I'd be dead without Doc. I have no doubt about it. I really don't. He gave me, I mean, I have my own reasons to live now, and it's not all about Doc. But when I first got him, it was all about Doc because I couldn't focus on myself because I was a wreck. I mean, I
Yeah.
was such a mess.
Yeah.
You know.
And you talk about people talking to the dogs and all, but they do. It's not like you're talking to a parrot or it's something like that, because dogs understand the tone, and they understand,
Inflection.
they sense your emotions, and they react to it. And it's like, even though your life might not be all about them, their life seems to be all about you. And that's, they are, I think they're purpose built in that way almost. If you were to say they were created, I would argue the toss that they, that were created. And I do think that dogs have a very special purpose, and they achieve it very well. Obviously there's dogs that people are to be, afraid of because they've been mistreated or they're left on a leash. And obviously, there is vicious dogs,
Right.
but in general, when people have a pet dog, it's a family member.
Well, he
But
is he's like my, not to say like son, but he is my family, because my family is, I'm not, my family and I don't get along. I haven't got along with them in a long time. And he is my family, and he's also a 140-pound pit bull. So we're talking about that breed thing there, where people are generally terrified of pit bulls. But not Doc, man. They might be a little hesitant at first, and then, he'll just come up and give them a big lick, or he'll sit down and give them their paw. And it's like, oh, he's not big and scary. And it's like, I told you,
yeah,
he
you
thinks he's a kid.
you mentioned something about the physical exercise earlier on. I often do talk about that and how it links with your mental health. Do you find that helps, having that routine?
Yeah.
Advise it, or,
I would totally, yeah. If you have any kind of mental illness and can exercise, I highly advise it. There's that whole mind, body, spirit connection, which is really true. And after a really good workout, when your endorphins are pumping and everything, I mean, that's a spirit. There's its own spirituality within that as well. Plus, it also helps with weight gain, which is a serious side effect with a lot of the medication for, mental health problems. So it helps keep your weight down, which also helps to keep the depression down, because people get really upset when they gain 100 pounds in 4 months, understandably.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exercise is key. And plus, it's also just key for the whole, the whole spiritual thing of being, one. Well, I always go outside and exercise. I don't deal with a gym. I got my own workout weirdness routine at a abandoned campground close to the lake that Doc and I go to. So I've got my own really, like, my hip hop ballet routine, which people are like, what in the world is she doing? But believe me, I work up a good sweat. And but yeah, I think it's another key component of exercise is, your temple, your body, in a way of respecting yourself, of, even if it's not for weight loss, which a lot of people go into it just with that one thing in mind, and that's where they lose it, when they should just be like, I'm doing this for me, so I just feel better. Now, if the weight comes off, the weight comes off, but if it doesn't, I'm still doing it to make myself feel better. But a lot of people don't want to exercise because they remember gym class back in school where they're getting hit in the head with a volleyball, and that's no fun.
Yeah.
So, why would you want to exercise? But I mean, it definitely helps. I recommend it to anybody I know that has any form of illness whatsoever, be it, a mental health illness or diabetes or like even muscular sclerosis. Just keep active in your body. It'll help keep disease away.
Yeah. It definitely does pay off. And that's why that whole mind, body, spirit thing, that's what my aim with the podcast was, because I do think that, I had the mind and body thing for a long time, and there was something missing, I find, and I had to get my head around that side of things. But I really think it helps become a more balanced person, and then the podcast is just about I was just kind of laying out, talking to different people about their experiences, like we are today, and when you were talking about, well, really, we're encompassing the three things. Some people are more sports inclined, some people are more whatever, and but it is very important, and I hope people take away, that from hearing. Because once you start moving, even if you don't want it, you never regret going out for a walk. I don't think so.
Exactly.
And you never regret doing a bit of a jog, and unless you fall down and injure yourself, of course. But you never regret the effort of doing it, and obviously it gets them endorphins going, and gets the blood pumping, and your body, the oxygen carried through the blood to all the different muscle cells. It wakes you up, and just
and it releases stress, which is a killer. And that's like such a prime way to get rid of stress.
Yeah. And it's fun. Once you do it a few times, you get a bug for it then as well. It becomes one of your routines. And then, of course, the weight loss, like you said, that should be seen as a great, side effect from it, really, byproduct.
Right?
Yeah. But when I say that, I think that really, as we were talking about this last night about, why set up a podcast, or why try and help people in that way? Really, I found as though had this kind of strange kind of calling to do something. I wasn't doing something I should be doing, and then I found I could be doing more to help others as well. Because I was talking to a lot of people who were struggling with their weight, also leading into struggling with their mental state, because that obviously follows on, and then we're a bit lost spiritually, and found no meaning kind of in their life. And I was finding all that was all falling together for me for the first few times. So I really felt as though I was getting a calling to do that. I had the mics and I had the things like that because we were playing music, so I had all the equipment. And the room I'm in now is actually where I work, and my boss said, "Work away. You can use it whenever you want if you want to interview people." So everything was like it was there in front of me, just telling me, "Just do it. Just hit record and go." Now, would you say you had a calling, basically, after coming out of that Make It Right? It would sound to me as if you started tackling kind of mental health issues from then on a bit.
I tried to help. I wanted to destigmatize it, is what it really was. And yeah, I was active in like my local NAMI and things like that. And where I live now is it's kind of a nutty place. I live in Arizona, and I live 3 miles from the largest Apache reservation in the United States, and I live 230 miles away from the Mexican border. So we have a nice mix.
What is that? What I as an Irish person, I don't know what that means.
What, the Mexican border?
Oh, so the Mexican border. What did you say? The Apache on the other side? Sorry.
230 miles away from that. So the suicide rate out here is incredible, because we only hear about half the stats that are coming off the reservation. They don't give us all the numbers. It's high, and I forgot what your actual question was again. But
just if you found as though you felt as though you had a calling to maybe destigmatize it or to help it.
Yeah, I had a calling to do something. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I thought originally it was going to be a book, which I've been formulating in my head since I was about 15 years old. And it was going to be called Nothing But a Teenage Statistic, which was, because it's true. When you're a teenager, everything you do is staticized. You're just a statistic. It doesn't matter what you do. You're just a number. Yeah. And then my friends thought I should start a YouTube page a long time ago. And I was like, I wasn't ready for it. I didn't think that I don't know what it was. I guess maybe I didn't think that I could carry the message that needed to be carried yet. Now, when I came out of the hospital this past March, after going delusional, that's in one of the podcasts. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it goes into why I went into my last hospitalization when I thought I was home invaded by 57 people that were not really here. That's why you stay on your medications, kids. That's why. Okay. But when I came out of that, and I was like, and that, like, the gravity of how important it is for people to understand the whole deal, and it was funny because I was supposed to be on a friend's podcast and I kept hedging it and being like, yeah, I'll let you know. And then all of a sudden I was like, I made up my mind and I was like, I want to be on your podcast like yesterday. And she's like, well, you have to wait. I have this many people booked ahead of you. And I was like, are you kidding me? Now I'm ready to do it. And I was like, you know what? I can just as easy download this app and hit record and get my message out on my own. And that's what I did. And believe me, that first podcast is awful. I go back and listen to it now, and it's like 3 minutes of, but you have to do an intro. And it's like, I keep thinking I want to delete it off of the whole thing. And I'm like, you can't delete the first one because that's the whole basis of what this whole thing is built on.
Yeah.
But since I've been doing it, my understanding of what I need to do and make it right, and it all makes sense now. It all like came together, and it's like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know for how long, and I don't know if this is going to turn into a book deal. And I keep thinking it would make an amazing sitcom, my life. It's like, and I keep saying to everybody, I am my own franchise. Like, everything that happens from here on is because I made this one huge step. And people are like, you're so brave. And I didn't actually see it that way, but I kind of do now. It's like, yeah, I was brave, or I was just flat dumb. I'm not sure which way this goes, but yeah, there's a calling to it. There's a calling to it now where I'm hungry to help people realize how important life is and to not die.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I was talking about timing the other day. Sometimes things fall into place. Like you said, you hadn't written the book yet, but maybe that is to come from the experience of talking to other people on the podcast or your own development. But as well, timing is key. I think, I can't even chalk it down to coincidence anymore, how some things fit together so well. Like even when you talk about there, you wanted to be a guest, and all of a sudden her roster was full, which made you take the step to do your own podcast, which you mightn't have done if you just done the episode and was happy with, putting it out there.
Exactly. With just the one message getting out, it would have been like, that's good enough. And
no, you could have took a look at her and realized asked her how hard it is to do and said, it's not for me then. But the fact that it was full time, and I think my time was right as well. Like I came across certain people this year, people who were acquaintances kind of in the background, and who I kind of pitched the ideas to, and I know he'll know I'm talking about when I'm talking now. And I was a little bit hesitant to put out what it is because everyone's so critical, and everyone has their own view of things. And your family members and friends and all who disagree with the way you see things, and you're reading books and you're taking in the world as you see it, and you want to talk to different people. And really, I had a list of my podcasts. It was Train, Thought, and Truth. And most people, in the beginning, I was like, it's a fitness podcast, But I knew it was more than that. But when you start talking about the spiritual side of things and the mental health and all, people were kind of... And then I was like doing a few episodes, and they were getting more to the spiritual side. And then I was trying to hold back on talking to people who were just footballers, say, or just like some sport, like kickboxing or whatever like that. I was like, I better not do that yet. Then I was like, these things are coming to me. I'm not putting them on hold. You just take these things as they come and put it out there. And just do your bit of research on it and enjoy it, and hopefully people get some positivity from it. And I do get some messages.
People will get out of it what they want to get out of it. Now, what you're putting into it, you're a very positive dude. I can tell that. Like you're very positive. You're very upbeat. But somebody who wants to be a curmudgeon, no matter whatever it is you're going to show them, they're going to find some kind of a negative side to it. So you definitely can't please everybody. But as long as what you think you're doing and you feel good about it, and you go to bed at night and you're like, that was a day well spent.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Well, they say nothing done right is insignificant. Where you put your effort in, and as well, it's true. If you're trying to make everyone happy, you'll never do anything at all because it's impossible. Everyone's going to have, and I had this issue that whatever I was doing, and this was with work and with college or with whatever sport or anything like that, that I was always trying to cater to. When you talk to someone, you kind of start talking to them, in their accents, kind of, and you start, talking to them the way they talk to you, and you lose your personality a little bit, And it took me a while to find my own personality, I think, and to be brave enough to say, these are actually my views on it, but I welcome your views as well. But, I'm trying to do a positive thing here, and still people are kind of, trying to beat it down a little bit and try and counteract it. But, you're going to get that. And that's the yin and the yang of life. And you have to be ready for them things,
Oh yeah.
In the long run, really, what I was going to ask you is, Living with Bipolar is the name of your podcast, and you said you have bipolar. Can you explain what that means exactly?
Bipolar, I have a chemical deficiency in my brain, so it's basically a mood disorder where I have a hard time regulating between happy and sad, or manic and fully depressed. And believe me, when I get depressed, it's like an abyss. It's horrible. And when I'm manic, wow, do I do some cuckoo things. So, but yeah, that's basically what it is. Now, some people experience other things with it. There can be muscle and body stuff that goes with it, body pains and things like that. Yeah. But for me, it's basically just a very severe mood disorder where I cannot regulate between high and low.
Right.
But I mean, I was like I told you earlier, I was learning for that 7-year period where I was in a remission from it. I obviously learned how to regulate it with food and exercise again. And I was faithfully going to church. There was a very spiritual side to my life then. And, but I think that's what it is for most people with bipolar, it is the high and the low. Some people stay more towards one end or the other of it though. And when you can hit the middle ground, I mean, that's the, the apex of it, when you can just like finally hit middle ground and be like stable.
Yeah. And specifically dancing with bipolar.
Dancing. Well, I kind of did. I was a ballerina. I was trained to be a ballerina when I was a kid. So, and I always feel like I'm doing the cha-cha with the bipolar. Like I'm doing, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. And so I'm always like, that's kind of what it was like dancing with bipolar, because I'm always doing a cha-cha with it. I'm always on a very kind of slippery slope. If I don't stay mindful of what I'm doing, it's a very slippery slope where I could wind up back, in that depression mode really easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I wish you the best of luck, and obviously your podcast, Dancing with Bipolar, and I hope we cross paths again in the future anyway. And it was really great talking to you today, and I appreciate you taking the time out to have a chat.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. It was awesome. And maybe you can have you on my show at some point in time too, and you can talk about how cool you are.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And well, until then, thanks very much, and I'll talk to you soon then. All the best, Dawn. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.